In June, I went to annual conference, which was held at the University of Puget Sound and Mason UMC in Tacoma. As I arrived for our first plenary session, it was the big auditorium at Sheenbeck Hall, and it was my first time there, and I sort of observed from the back who's here, looking for friends, trying to see where I might sit or with whom I might sit. And across the way, I saw a woman, a pastor colleague, friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a while, and so I went over to greet her and I squatted next to her. She was on the aisle and said hello, and she gave me a hug and greeted me, and she had people lined up in every seat next to her except for the two on the far end against the wall. And she said, "Debbie, where are you sitting?" And I said, "Oh, I haven't picked yet." And she said, "Oh, well, then you have to sit here." And she looks over at her friends, "You got to move down so that Debbie can sit with us." And they sort of shrugged her off. I think they thought she was joking. I sort of thought she wasn't really serious. She didn't need to have everybody move for my sake. There were certainly other seats available. But she was insistent. And so she turned to them again, and we're having conversation. "Guys, you got to scoot down." And they again sort of brushed her off. It was 4 or 5 times. And finally she said, "No, seriously, all of you have to move down so that Debbie can sit here." And so they looked at her. One of them rolled his eyes. Another said, "Well, you are our bishop." It was Mary Ann Swenson, and so they obliged and all scooted over one seat. She got up and moved from the aisle seat, the preferred seat, so that I could sit next to her and we could visit during plenary session. In big meetings like that, I tend to be kind of a loner. It makes it easy when I want to bail early. I don't have to excuse myself by a bunch of people or feel like I'm ditching them or leaving them. So I'm actually happy to sit by myself. But there, the bishop had made space for me, intentionally for me. Now, we're not close by any measure or means. We check in here and there. I've certainly reached out since Jeff's death, but we don't talk every week or even every month, and I don't go to her for sort of mundane things in ministry. I would only call on the bishop for the big deal kinds of things. Though I've known her for the full course of my ministry. She married my brother and his wife. She was the bishop who commissioned me and then ordained me. We certainly have history together. But the fact that she saw me and made space for me, not just to say hello or give me a hug or to check in, but to really just inconvenience that whole line of people so that I could sit with her, was such this affirmation of hospitality. And I wondered, what would it be like if we did that in church? If we looked for the people who were coming to say hello or who were wandering down the aisle and didn't just expect them to take some empty space somewhere, but we're excited to see them. "Hey, you should come sit next to me. Have you chosen a place? Because if not, there's room for me." "Well, there's people next to you. Yeah, they can move down." What if we offered that kind of delight at seeing those who worship among us? Sometimes those we may see weekly, sometimes those we may not have seen for months and months, but when they show up, we're filled with joy, and we convey that true hospitality and that warmth to them. How can we offer greater hospitality each and every Sunday when we're here or when we're worshiping online to help people to be seen and known, recognized, and loved? I think that's part of how we extend the grace of Christ in simple ways, through our fellowship, through our worship, and through our church community. Take care, friends.